Welcome to the MegaCast. I'm Tyler Leafed in the studios of our flagship stations, Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. You can find us on Comcast, Channel 15, and AT&T, Channel 99, where you'll also find us in Southfield on City Cable 15 of Southfield and in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Join us as well on Channel 10 in Orion Township and Lake Orion on Orion Neighborhood Television, as well as on the radio on 88.1 The Biff, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District, operations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week out of Bloomfield Hills High School. Find us online on Facebook, facebook.com/CivicCenterTV15 and facebook.com/LakesFM, on our website at CivicCenterTV.com, as well as on My Michigan TV, otherwise known as My. Learn more information about everywhere that we broadcast on our website, CivicCenterTV.com, by clicking on our MegaCast link or just typing in CivicCenterTV.com/MegaCast. Now, I purposely left one of those outlets out of our list of people that join us every single day here on the MegaCast, live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon for both the Oakland County and the Michigan MegaCast. We are also joined on Channel 10 in Waterford by the Media Network of Waterford, and today a special Oakland County hour of the MegaCast. We are joined by Jeff Decker, the host of In Town on the Media Network of Waterford, co-hosting this hour of the MegaCast with me. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you so much, Tyler. Memorizing just that opening is enough to shock me. That was
you
great.
do it enough times, it kind of just becomes routine. Luckily, I got this handy-dandy screen here next to me that our viewers usually see. Those watching on television and on our streams on the web will see on the screen during our breaks. It's got all the logos of our partnering stations, so if I get out of order a little bit or I miss one down the line, it makes it a little easier. But
well, you've been doing a heck of a job. We've been watching it at Media Network and really applaud you guys for doing this. This is really great.
Well, we appreciate having you on, and we appreciate, of course, having the Media Network of Waterford join us every single day for the Oakland County hour of the MegaCast. And, of course, we start the show off by talking about what is in the news or making headlines or coming up here in the Oakland County area. Let's start off. We have you here from Waterford. You are the insider for everything Waterford, and we have an exciting event coming up. It's an Alzheimer's benefit with guest singer Michael Carluccio. It is Saturday, February 26th, 7 p.m. Doors opening at 6 o'clock at the Deer Lake Backcourt Banquet Center. Tell us about this event, Jeff.
Well, I've been approached by a few people. Rick Nelson's a good friend of mine, a local plumber that has helped out throughout the years of everything. And Rick got a hold of me and said our mutual friend Cindy Carson was doing this to try and raise some money in hopes to help out. Of course, anytime you can help out such a thing as Alzheimer's is just a great event. So she came, asked if I would, in fact, just the other day now, was asked that I would be the MC with her on this thing on Saturday. But that's great. Deer Lake volunteering their space and everything. The people involved in this, the list is huge. Glitz, Hair, and Mel's Grill, Jets Pizza, Bowman Chevrolet, Pine Knob Wine Shop, Pet Supply, Office Max, House of Style, Nelson's Plumbing, Waterfall Jewelers, and this list goes on. But it's when it comes to the Alzheimer's thing, I don't know if anybody out there has, their own take on it. A family member, something happened. It's such a good thing to try and help out with because although I know I'm getting younger every day. No, not really. It's just going to creep into our lives.
Yeah, and it's of course a great benefit, and it's going to be great entertainment as well. Are you familiar with the headliner, Michael Carluccio? Have you ever heard him perform?
I have not, so I'm really looking forward to that. Being that I know. I think we talked about it on
yes.
air. I've got a band. That's right. The Broadcasters that's based out of Media Network. And I lead sing in that, and this guy does some great impressions, I'm told. Sinatra, Dean Martin, Elvis, Will. There's going to be some fun things.
Yeah, I think about, in comparison here in West Bloomfield, we have a guy that from West Bloomfield, he and his wife perform pretty often. Their names are Byron and Michelle Conselmo. They've performed at many events here in West Bloomfield that we've had in the past. Of course, West Bloomfield Youth Assistance has held a couple of their food truck rally fundraisers before the pandemic. It's, of course, taken a hiatus because of COVID-19, but much like Michael Carluccio, he performs Neil Diamond. He's big on performing Tom Jones, his wife Michelle, excellent at covering Karen Carpenter's music. So very, very nice comparison, always entertaining, so this should definitely be a fun time there in Waterford.
Yeah, it's $25. There's all kinds of gifts and giveaways. They're going to do a cash bar, and then they've got, of course, all the hors d'oeuvres and what have you. It'll be a nice time.
Yes, should be a nice time again. That is Saturday, February 26th, 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6 o'clock. $25 per person. Cash bar and a 50-50 raffle included. 248-770-4324. 248-770-4324 for more information and to purchase tickets. Also making headlines here in the Oakland County area. If you go to our website at civiccentertv.com and click on our coronavirus link, we have a lot of articles up there. We post articles each and every day before our show begins here at 10 a.m. and runs, of course, to 12 noon, so you can keep up to date on everything happening here in Oakland County and all across the state of Michigan. We also have those ever helpful links from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division, so you can stay up to date on what's going on in our local area. Now, making headlines here in the Oakland County area, good news for those of you down there in Royal Oak. Royal Oak Library will be closing its south entrance, but that's not the good news. That's the bad news, of course. They're going to be closing one of their entrances. The good news is they'll be constructing a new terrace. This is from our friends over at the Oakland Press. Workers are set to begin construction Tuesday on a new colorful terrace on the south side of the Royal Oak Public Library. The south side entrance of the library will have to close for up to a month, and patrons will be limited to accessing the facility at the entrance on 11 Mile Road. Library Director Sandy Irwin said the north entrance has an ADA-compliant paddles that allow wheelchair or walker users and others to open the doors right there. A new terrace will overlook the Centennial Commons downtown park when it is finished and have a cafe-style table and chair collection as well. Overhead, 14 lime green canopies will be attached to tube columns of stainless steel 13 feet high to offer shade out on the new 76 by 44 foot terrace, which will include new floodlights. We're really looking forward to it, Irwin said, continuing on, and hope to do some of our programs out on the terrace, in closed quote. Library employees will begin to plan which programs they conduct on the terrace after it is completed and start offering the programs in the summer, she said. Irwin was named the library director last year and last worked at the public library in Durango, Colorado. So a new addition to the library, and libraries in every town, especially, and we know for sure here where we originate our broadcast here in West Bloomfield, a pillar of this community on both sides. We cover 4 communities here at Civic Center TV, our flagship station, West Bloomfield, and then the Tri-Cities of Keego Harbor, neighboring your town there in Waterford, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake Village. All 4 of those communities have access to the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. They do a ton of programs. I'm sure it's the same thing in Waterford, so good news for those in Royal Oak that they're going to have this new element come into their public library.
I can't believe how well the library systems have been running, and during the pandemic, this has been a mainstay for many people. There were people at first when this happened literally parking out in the parking lot to open up their Wi-Fi because everybody was afraid to go in. Waterford actually opened their Wi-Fi up, and people were pulling into the parking lot because the signal would catch there, and were able to get online and what have you. But Waterford's done a great job. I mean, if people would attend and check out their local libraries, there's so many things they offer, classes, and it's just a wonderful source.
And for a lot of these cases, and most of these cases, all you need is to have a library card, which you can get for free by showing proof of residence, which you can do, of course, with your ID. You can do with any sort of bill from your home. And so all these great programs for yourself, for your kids, for your families, learning experiences, all right there at your local library.
It has so much to offer, and it's a source that sits there oftentimes not used. And you ask for people, where could we have a meeting? Oh, there's no place. Everybody wants to go to a restaurant or noise facility type thing like that. But the libraries have those spaces, and just simply need to walk in and take a look around and see what you like.
So exciting news over there in Royal Oak. Looking forward to opening a new terrace at the Royal Oak Public Library. That full article from the Oakland Press on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. We're going to take a little step back on our page, go to our top headline as it's connecting to something coming up on our show here today. After a massive fire, Oakland Hills Country Club will rebuild a replica of its clubhouse. This also from our friends at the Oakland Press. Following the massive fire at the Oakland Hills Clubhouse on Thursday of last week, the club is moving forward on rebuilding and making the club operational for the golf season that opens in just a few months. Quote, I can report that our board meeting this past Saturday morning, the board unanimously made an easy decision to determine that the restored, rebuilt clubhouse will be a replica of what the iconic clubhouse was before the fire, said Oakland Hills President Rick Palmer in a Zoom meeting on Monday morning. He said that the decision was easy after the outpouring of support from membership and the golf community. They are in the process of looking at architects for the rebuild. The cause of the fire is still under investigation by the Bloomfield Township Fire Department. Quote, our insurance carrier will make the final determination if it is a total loss. However, we are operating internally and planning that it is a total loss and taking steps assuming that that will be the case, Palmer said. The club has also retained an independent insurance adjuster. Palmer said it's still too early to comment on any specifics such as dollar amounts. That full article from our friends at the Oakland Press on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. And Jeff, this big news all across Oakland County, the top story here in our local area last week, an historic building and a historic location burns down. But I think the biggest, a big story that's maybe been a little bit overlooked is the partnership in local fire departments that went into extinguishing that fire, to keeping that situation as safe as possible. And of course, what made big stories in sports, in particular for the history that was preserved and ultimately saved from that burning building.
Thank goodness. I personally have experiences out there. My father and I went out for an open out there. I watched T-Sheet Chin, and he double hit on a bunker shot and lost the lost the tournament on that particular shot. I met Jack Nicklaus there. I met Arnold Palmer at the club. But it's literally the second oldest wooden structure was in the entire state. What's the oldest? Take a guess.
The oldest wooden structure.
Oldest wooden structure in the state of Michigan.
Huh.
The Grand Hotel. I didn't even know that too until they did it, but I was like,
it's interesting.
So when they come back to do the rebuild, and it's crazy. I think they said they put something like $13 million into the club just last year. It's crazy to think that they wouldn't have had really great fire suppression in there. And my God, the fire departments are out of their mind. Everybody coming to their aid. Josh from Media Network, since he also does broadcasts out of Channel 7 and works with them, he said the one thing that they really have to be careful with while they were doing that is, and he actually has seen this, where in wintertime when you're doing all the fire hose and you've got all the water going, the wheels of the fire truck get frozen, and he's seen them try and pull out, and you can't pull out.
Yeah.
It's for your fire truck is literally cemented right there to the ground because of the water and freezing.
Well, all those articles from our friends at the Oakland Press, from other local publications here in Oakland County and all across the state of Michigan, including a really interesting article on skilled trades here in the state of Michigan and the need for more skilled trades workers, but also for those to train those workers on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Coming up next, partnership in firefighting became a big need last week here in Oakland County, as we just spoke about. We'll talk to West Bloomfield Township Fire Chief Greg Flynn next. You're watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here
for you. Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation. Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crimevictim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
As partners working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is the source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
Welcome back to the MegaCast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Jeff Decker from In Town on the Media Network of Waterford on Channel 10 in Waterford. To learn more information about everywhere that we broadcast, including the Media Network of Waterford, you can visit our website, civiccentertv.com, and click on our MegaCast link. Joining us now from the West Bloomfield Township and Tri-City Fire Department is Fire Marshal Byron Turnquist. Talk about, of course, the continued need for staying aware of winter safety tips for your home and outdoors. Keep yourself safe, prevent fires in your home, but also the importance of partnership across fire departments here in Oakland County. Byron, thank you for being with us today.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good.
Good. So I appreciate having you on. Last week in Bloomfield Hills, of course, we had that colossal fire at the country club there at Oakland Hills Country Club's clubhouse. Required the partnership of many different fire departments to control the fire and ultimately to ease its way out so it didn't become a danger to other areas nearby. Can you speak to just how important partnership is in putting out fires, especially of that size and that aggressiveness, all across Oakland County?
The West Bloomfield Fire Department is a member of Oakway, which is a group of 10 fire departments in the area, and all 10 of those departments were there assisting the Bloomfield Township Fire Department with their fire. Whenever you have a large fire of that size and more resources are needed, whether it's firemen, whether it's the tower trucks, the aerials, where we were using the master streams, putting water on the roof directly into the roof. It's very hard for a community to maintain that many ladder trucks, which is why it's important to have partnerships with your neighbors who also have similar resources and are able to bring that equipment and manpower to help assist with the incident that you're mitigating.
That's such a great thing, that the partnership with all of the different stations. I've been fortunate enough to go out to Crest there in Auburn Hills. What a training facility. That just has to be a blessing with all you guys.
It is, and we work closely with all of our Oakway partners and train with them, and specifically whether we do local training in the southern end of the county or if we all meet up at Crest. We do use that facility, and it's a great resource to have in the county.
So in between the partnered training, of course, the partnered firefighting and services, the first thing that really comes to my mind when I'm thinking about bringing all those different departments together to fight one single fire, or to contain at least one single fire in that moment, is what happens in all these different towns then when they are sending so many resources to this particular fire. How do you then continue the same level of support and the same level of service in each of these communities collectively while you are collectively attending to such a fire?
Right. It's a logistical, or can be a logistical nightmare, but it is something that we practice and do. We'll do it quite often for a smaller fire. We had a small fire and a couple medical emergencies last week where our resources in West Bloomfield were depleted real quick. And we rely on our mutual aid partners, again, Oakway, to help fill the stations and be ready in our community to handle the next emergency. And that happens daily, or maybe not daily, but it happens often where it's second nature to us, where you'll have a Waterford crew in West Bloomfield, and we may be in Bloomfield Township. And as we start to use those resources or direct all those resources to a large incident, we start bringing other neighbors to fill in the communities that have depleted their resources, whether it's on that incident or on several smaller incidents.
Were you out at Oakland Hills for that?
I was out there for part of the day.
Oh my, what a tragic thing that had to be. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, it was a very large fire. Again, because we practiced together, trained together, we were able to work seamlessly together, and just all of the different departments pulled together and worked towards the outcome.
West Bloomfield Township and Tri-City Fire Marshal Byron Turnquist joins us on the MegaCast. Byron, that particular day, nothing lucky about the situation, but if there's anything that was lucky in the firefighting, it was that, at least early on, was that the conditions that day, being that it was the beginning of a pretty large snowstorm, had not come into full effect just yet. But that being said, this was a fire that was being fought for the entirety of that day and much into the next day, into Friday of last week. How much do the weather conditions outside play into how fire departments or Oakway partnership, like was fighting the Oakland Hills fire, how much does that come into play as you are talking through the logistics of battling that blaze?
Well, I heard somebody mention it earlier today that Thursday, while the fire was burning, we saw all of Michigan's seasons, and it's true. It started off a relatively warmer day, then we had the rain, and eventually turned to snow, and all of that stuff was freezing. And in extremely warm temperatures during the summer, it's hard. Firefighters become exhausted rather quickly. In the cooler temperatures, where you might not be as affected by the heat, that cold does take a toll on you. Your equipment will start to freeze while you're actively working and closer to the fire and moving around. Your gloves will work, your air masks work appropriately, but in those colder temperatures, as soon as you start taking that equipment off to get a break, that stuff quickly freezes. Along with the fire hoses that are frozen to the ground. While I was waiting to get in, I heard you mention, the possibility or the effect where fire trucks' wheels have been frozen to the parking lots. That can happen. On this particular fire, we were using the aerial devices, and I'm sure you saw in the news coverage, the firefighters were climbing up and down those ladders. With all the water that was being sprayed and the rain and the snow, those ladders became extremely icy, and it was dangerous for firefighters to go up and down.
I've actually worn some of the equipment you guys wear, and it's heavy. I mean, the average amount of weight that you're putting on your body and then fighting it and then the weather, I applaud you. I mean, it's just a wonderful thing. It's so good that that cumulative group has, you know, an order to it. That has to just, as bad as the fire is, as bad as the whole thing was, to have that organization is just, I absolutely applaud that. Wonderful.
Yeah, well, the Bloomfield Township did an outstanding job orchestrating everything, coordinating everything. And we think of the fire departments that were there, but there were more people that were there as well. We were coordinating efforts with the country club staff to get some of the memorabilia out of the building. Bloomfield Township was working with their water department to make sure that we had a good, solid water supply. Consumers Energy was there, DTE was there, the Salvation Army was out there, the Bloomfield Township Police Department was out there and played a pivotal role. And even neighborhood restaurants were bringing food or coordinating getting food to feed the firefighters, because it was a prolonged incident that did go throughout the night and into the next day.
We're joined by Byron Turnquist, West Bloomfield Township and Tri-City Fire Marshal, joining us on the MegaCast. Of course, we are in the middle of winter. We've had a couple of large snowstorms over the past few weeks, and with those snowstorms come potential at-home issues. You're trying to get the snow off of your vehicles if they're outside. You're trying to warm your cars up before you go out into the cold and go for a drive to work or otherwise in the community. And of course, with inclement weather comes power outages. What are some of those common hazards that people may fall into or may become subjected to out of a lack of awareness that they should be keeping a close eye on or keeping front of mind as they are dealing with inclement weather in their home?
The biggest thing is you never know when an incident's going to happen, whether it's a power outage or a fire in your home. One thing to keep in mind with the snow, and I hope we don't see a lot more of it, but as it snows and we're clearing our driveways and we're clearing the parking lots in our businesses, we need to pay attention to those fire hydrants that are scattered throughout the neighborhood and in the parking lots. As we just saw with Oakland Hills, getting that water is extremely important. Fire hydrants that get plowed in and covered in snow delay us. It makes it harder for us to find the fire hydrant when we need it. And then if it is buried in snow, it takes time and resources to shovel that hydrant out to get the water to fight the fire.
Were you surprised? I'm sorry. Were you surprised how Oakland Hills didn't have so much fire suppression within that building?
There was fire suppression within the building, okay. And unfortunately at this time I can't comment too much about right. what was going on inside of the building.
Right.
But to kind of redirect and bring it back to Tyler's comment, with power outages and stuff, if you're using a generator in your home, you want to make sure you get that generator outside. Don't run it in your garage. Get it away from the house. Get it away from doors and windows. That generator can be a source for fire, or it can also be a source for carbon monoxide, and you don't want that gas to fill your home.
So Byron, the fire department recently responded to a fire at a home where the homeowners believed that they had extinguished the fire in their fireplace. They were using it recreationally, when their home up. It's nice for ambiance in the background. They thought they had put the fire out, but it wasn't out. Can you talk about fireplace safety for homeowners? Obviously, you want to make sure that fire is out and you want to make sure it's fully extinguished. What should that process be, and what are some other common hazards in the fireplace at people's homes that people should be more aware of?
Before you use your fireplace, the beginning of every season, it's always a good idea to have that chimney cleaned and inspected by a professional chimney sweep, somebody that really knows what everything there is about your fireplace and your chimney, to inspect and make sure that it's ready to be used for the season. When you do use your fireplace, you want to make sure you use clean, dry wood. You don't want to use wood that was just recently, if you cut a tree down in your backyard, you want to let that dry and make sure it's ready to be burned. And then you want to limit what you use in your fireplace to wood. You don't want to use garbage or paper, those types of items, because that stuff the clean, dry wood will burn hot and work well in the chimney and keep some problems away. The other thing to keep in mind is when you clean your chimney, or when you clean the fireplace out after you use it, those coals that are in the bottom of the fireplace will hold their heat for a long time. So you want to make sure that when you clean that fireplace out, you put the ashes in a metal container, and again, keep them away from combustibles. Put them outside in the yard, not necessarily in a bucket or a bag on the back deck. You want to keep it in a metal container away from combustibles for a few more days. It's always a good idea to soak them with water before you put them in the garbage and to dispose of them.
See, now you tell me. As a kid, I thought I was doing good. After my folks, I think it was a New Year's Eve party, I'm going to be the good son, and I decided to vacuum out the fireplace. Yes, we lost that vacuum.
Yep. It's surprising.
Long time.
It's surprising how long those coals will hold the heat. And we see it as well in the summer months with charcoal grills. People will take the ashes out of a grill and wrap them up in tin foil and set them on a deck, and an hour or so later, they meet their fire department.
We're joined by Byron Turnquist, the West Bloomfield Township Fire Marshal, joining us on the MegaCast. And so, of course, we talked about a partnership out at Oakland Hills between local fire departments and on March 12th, Saturday, 11 a.m. That partnership between your department in West Bloomfield and Jeff's friendly department out there in Waterford will turn briefly to rivalry as we're returning the annual charity basketball game. Can you tell us about that event, how people can participate, and ultimately which charity this game will benefit?
Yeah, this game is all the proceeds will go to benefit the Great Lakes Burn Camp, and that's a camp that has been established for people that have burn injuries, and it's an opportunity for kids to go and enjoy the camp experience. Again, we're battling with our friends to the north, the Waterford Regional Fire Department. And you caught me off guard here. I believe the game's at Kettering this year, Waterford Kettering.
I believe so, yeah. That's Saturday, March 12th.
Yep, and it's a good family event to come on out and cheer on the firefighters as they compete against one another.
Well, Byron, we thank you very much for joining us. Before we let you go, anything else at this time that would be important for our audience to keep in consideration to keep themselves safe in their home and out in the community this winter?
Make sure you test your smoke alarms. That's your first defense to get you that early notification if there is a problem in your home. And almost just as important as a smoke alarm is your carbon monoxide detector. If your smoke alarm is more than 10 years old, replace it. They wear out over time. They're not as sensitive. And your CO detector, if they're more than 7 years old, it's a good idea to replace those. You want to keep those throughout the home. Your smoke alarms should be in every bedroom, outside of the sleeping area, and on every level of the house. And it's a good idea to have a CO detector on every level of your home.
Byron, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Appreciate it. You as well. Again, Saturday, March 12th, 11 a.m., the West Bloomfield Township Fire Department will take on the Waterford Regional Fire Department in a charity basketball game benefiting the Great Lakes Burn Camp. Coming up next, a familiar face will rejoin us. Former host of this program and revered investigative journalist Ronnie Dahl joins us next to talk about her new podcast, CrimeCasters. That's coming up next. You are watching and listening to the MegaCast.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
It's the Great Lakes water. And so what people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes. They stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Welcome back to the MegaCast. I'm Tyler Keefe, alongside the media network of Waterford's Jeff Decker, here in our studios in West Bloomfield Township. Although we're broadcasting all throughout the Oakland County area. Learn more information about everywhere that we broadcast live and live to tape, and find our shows on demand. CivicCenterTV.com/MegaCast. Well, you've seen her on Fox 2 on Channel 7, and right here on the MegaCast now, she is co-hosting the new podcast CrimeCasters along with Alicia Safias. Ronnie Dahl joins us now on the MegaCast. Ronnie, welcome back.
Hey, Tyler, how are you? You know, it is crazy because we got to talk with so many people, and you kind of miss that.
Yeah, it's really interesting to continue to meet some new people, talk to some familiar faces, see how things are changing, and new things that are coming up in Oakland County and all across the state of Michigan over time. You got some new things coming up already underway with your new podcast, CrimeCasters. You can learn more information on CrimeCastersNetwork.com. Taking a little bit different approach to investigative journalism without the constraints of mainstream media, of mainstream news. Tell us about CrimeCasters and then how that freedom from those constraints helps you better tell these stories.
Well, Alicia and I had worked together years ago in Lansing. We don't want to count the years because then you might be able to figure out how old we are. But a few years ago, she actually came to me. So we left Lansing. I stayed in the Michigan area. She went to California, and while she was out there, she was working, I think, for a cannabis company doing PR and pitching some reality shows. And all the producers were like, true crime. Do you have anything true crime? What about true crime? And she had pitched the idea of reporters going back and reinvestigating some of the stories that they covered as reporters. And she had approached me at that time, but I was working for ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. And so I wasn't able to do it at that time. And so she moved back to Michigan during the pandemic because her parents are here and she got married. And so the stars kind of aligned. And that's why we've joined forces. And one of them being is you're looking at the cases that we covered as reporters. And there are always those cases that stick with you. When your general assignment, and even in the investigative world, and journalism has changed considerably over the years as well. And you go out and you're turning 2-3 stories a day. So you have no time. Like the deadline pressure that reporters are under really is crazy. But these stories and the families stick with you. So we came up with the CrimeCasters Network, and in the beginning, we're going to revisit some of the cases that we covered as reporters and kind of take a deeper look at them. And, you know, it's crazy because in a newscast, anyone who's out there, like if you time a story, we call them packages, right? Where a reporter actually goes and tracks and interview people and you put it together as called a package. Most packages that air on the, evening news, they're like 1:15. If you're investigative, you might get a little bit more time and you can maybe do 2.5, 3 minutes, and then you're begging for that time. Our podcast is about 35, 40 minutes on each case. And it's crazy because even then we're like, we don't have enough time. And to think like, how do we put this story in 2.5, 3 minutes? And now 30 minutes isn't enough time. So it really gives you a chance to kind of dig deeper and look at the cases, look at the stories, and reinvestigate, and also re-interview people involved as well.
It's a wonderful source. What type of things have you found through doing this? What have you found out in your true crimes adventure?
Well, and, sadly, we have so many cases. Like for me, being in Detroit, there are so many. So the two that I started off with, one for me was just the DeAndre Lane case. Bianca Jones is still missing, and she has yet to be legally declared dead. And the Detroit Police Department also considers her case an open case. And yet her father has been convicted of her murder and is serving life in prison without the chance of parole. How has that happened? And I covered the story. I covered it, multiple times as a reporter. In fact, had the first interview with DeAndre after Bianca went missing. And are there questions that don't line up even today in my mind? Yes. But I think the case needs to be relooked at because I don't think there was enough evidence to convict him of life in prison. And when you look at these no body cases, you really start to look into them. He has such a rare situation in that we're looking at the time frame. Most people convicted of no body cases, and that being that no body has been found, there's a lot of them domestic violence or, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. And we're talking about weeks or days in between. In DeAndre Lane's case, you're looking at a window of 20, 30 minutes that they can't account for. And so that raises questions. But so it's been interesting to kind of, you dig deeper into the situation. Time has a way of opening up people to talk a little bit more. And we did speak to DeAndre from prison about kind of what he is going through. I don't think he ever thought he was going to be convicted. That's for certain.
We're joined by Ronnie Dahl from the CrimeCasters Network. Learn more information about their podcast, crimecastersnetwork.com. And just continuing on with the stories such as this, such as the Bianca Jones story, the DeAndre Lane story. There are so many layers to this. There's so many different paths that your mind kind of goes as you hear this story, as you're listening to the podcast, as you're diving deeper, considering all the what ifs. If this happened, then where could Bianca be if she still is alive? If she was murdered and it wasn't DeAndre Lane, who was it? Was she abducted? There's so many different paths and so many different avenues that you can explore that are their own individual stories. Having not had those time constraints, you've already spoken on that, but just being able to continuously follow up for you as a journalist and to continue to tell these people's stories when often they're told once, maybe twice on a newscast and then seemingly go away. For you as a journalist, how fulfilling is that to continue to be able to look back at these stories, reopen these stories, and tell them in full or as full as they can be?
It's satisfying, but on the other side, in certain ways, it's just as frustrating because there are so many answers or so many unanswered questions that you're trying to find out. But on the backside of that, we do know that people have started to open up to this whole true crime world, including law enforcement. And I think that's been kind of the changing game in all of this, that they understand that you need the public's help. The public has to help you with those answers or get those questions answered. And that's what we need to happen here. And, one of the theories with the Bianca Jones case is that possibly someone connected to the mother's side of the family had her. She was in North Carolina. I can tell you at one point in time when I was a reporter, I tried to go to North Carolina to look into this. So it isn't just so much a Michigan case. This could really be a national case. So maybe it is something where a person in another part of the country knows something about it. And there is such a following in the true crime podcast world, that they're helping to solve these cases. And I think as we go on, you're finding law enforcement is a little bit more open to exploring these avenues. You know, we even saw it here locally when Megan Lehman was with the Troy Police Department. She had a cold case that she put out on their social media page, and, you know, really trying to get the public interested to help them fill in those blanks that they need in order to make an arrest and get justice for these families.
So often people don't know what they saw, and they need to step forward and say something. And just to help that little edge, that little bit of edge with DNA now, and oh my God, what that's done to solve so many cases is just unbelievable.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that's been interesting, though, is seeing the response from the different departments on some of the different cases. Because if it's a cold case, some departments are willing to open up those files. Others are not. They'll say, oh, it's still an ongoing investigation. I'm looking into a case of a missing mother in Flint. She's been gone for more than 20 years, but yet they won't release any of the documents or any of the files. But, you know, I've had other cases where they've opened them. Because of our investigation, though, one of the first cases that my co-host Alicia Sabias went after was the Bernita White case out of Lansing. And that was one that, you know, at the time it made big headlines, but has kind of just sat. And what that was is you had a mother walking into the zoo with her 5-year-old daughter when she is struck by a bullet and killed. They believe it was a sniper, one bullet, and she died, while her husband has long been the suspect, and he is, or was, he's retired now, a Michigan State Police trooper. And one of the things that we have found, we put in a FOIA request. For those that don't know, a FOIA is Freedom of Information Act, and you can put in a request for the documents. That case sat cold forever. And then after we put in the FOIA request and started really making a lot of phone calls, and this is kind of where that relationship that I had with ATF comes into play, because law enforcement's not always so media friendly. And my time with ATF, I understand it. I really do. And there are some members of the media that I didn't appreciate what they did as well. And so in having these relationships with law enforcement, we were pretty much up against a brick wall. And then because I had a relationship with people in the office there with ATF, then they can vouch for me as a reporter that will kind of do the right thing on these cases. But the good thing is they have reopened the case. The bad thing is our FOIA request that was initially granted ended up being denied because they've reopened it. And so we could see an arrest in that case, you know, hopefully within the next few months.
That's great to hear, and it's great to hear that these stories are getting that focus that they deserve, that they don't often get beyond when they are airing or in the initial period after they air on mainstream news. We're joined by Ronnie Dahl from the CrimeCasters Network. More information on their podcast, crimecastersnetwork.com. And you mentioned FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests. Often those can be very expensive depending on the extent of what documents you're trying to get. You've talked about this numerous times while hosting the Megacast over here. On your website, there's a link to donate to the CrimeCasters Freedom of Information Act Fund. Just how important are those donations to that fund, to being able to open you and open Alicia and your team up to be able to get those critical documents that can help to be those pinpoints in telling these stories?
Well, it's so interesting for anyone that that applies to get some of these documents. And just so people know too, the FOIA is not for reporters or attorneys. It's for all of us. I mean, we're regular people. They are our documents. And what they're saying is there is a cost associated to them in producing them and then redacting them. So for example, when we first put in the FOIA for the Bernita White case and it was approved initially, I think the cost was $42,000. And at that time we were working with ABC, the network, on that case, and they were willing to help us fund that case. But then eventually those documents got denied. So they can get quite costly, but we also know that the answers are typically in the documents and they can fill in those gaps. And so that's why it really is so important. And, for people to know, like, we're self-funded, like, this is, we're going in, putting in our savings, trying to make this happen until we can get it up and going, because we do believe that there are answers out there. One of the other ones that's close to us here in the West Bloomfield area is the Jaballee murders. They actually happened in New Baltimore, but Steve Kaplan, the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor, was actually the assistant Macomb County prosecutor who worked on that case. He prosecuted it, and I interviewed him for the Jaballee murders, which has been interesting. And then trying to talk to the family members throughout this period and getting, the take from a prosecutor, the detective, but the family members, and then trying to go dig through the courthouse and uncover some of these old documents from a 1985 arrest that we had for Ron Sr., which one of the family members believes is connected to the case. Obviously, the prosecutor and the detective, they do not.
So much of, solving these crimes comes down to, like I said, finding the person that just happened to look at and see a car go by, and there's nothing to that. But yet, if they said something, even the color of a vehicle at a certain time that goes by can help so much in solving these problems. It's those little, like you're saying, fill in those little gaps.
Exactly, because we don't think about it. We've done that, and one of the cases in the Jaballee was a neighbor who was a truck driver came home late at night and was like clearing out his truck, and he noticed that the lights were not on at the Jaballee home where they usually were. He goes into his house, he comes home from, a job, goes into the house, then he comes out to his truck, and then he sees a truck leave, and then the lights are on, and it's about 1 a.m. So those little things that we don't think about could actually be the key to solving some of these cases.
We're joined by Ronnie Dahl from the CrimeCasters Network podcast. Learn more information about the podcast on their website, crimecastersnetwork.com. Ronnie, another couple minutes with you before we'll need to say goodbye. Before we do, tell us where we can find your podcasts, and also about how often our new episodes going to be coming out.
So we are pretty much anywhere a podcast. You get your podcast, like I'm an Apple person, so I get them on Apple. You can get it Spotify, Google, they're everywhere. But of course, people can listen on the website as well, crimecastersnetwork.com. And that's also where we put additional information, like the documents from the court case I was talking about in the Jaballee case. You can go on there and find those 1985 court documents. So really pretty much anywhere anyone wants to listen to one. And we just launched in February, so we now have 4 episodes up. Once we kind of get into a routine and a rhythm, it'll be 1 to 2 cases a week, because they take time to investigate. We have some that's kind of, backlogged right now because we started working on this 6-7 months ago. So 1 a week, and then it's just a balancing act of trying to look at these cases and, put in a FOIA on this one. And while you're waiting on this one, hey, what about this one? And for everyone in Oakland County, for me, because this is my home, one of the ones that I'm digging into right now that we hope to have soon is going to be the Stewart case out of Kiko Harbor. And that was the murder-suicide with the family. It made big headlines back in 2018 when it happened, but digging into it a lot deeper, there's so much more to the family and the Jehovah's Witness Church. I think a lot of people are going to find that one interesting.
Ronnie, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about this new podcast.
It's great having you guys. Miss you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Welcome back anytime. Ronnie Dahl from the CrimeCasters Network. You can learn more information on their website, crimecastersnetwork.com. Real reporters, real cases, real investigations, and of course, more information on the website, crimecastersnetwork.com. That is going to do it for the Oakland County Hour of the MegaCast. We'll return in a few for the Michigan Hour. Before we go, Jeff, thank you very much for being with us. Jeff Decker from the Media Network of Waterford.
My pleasure, really.
A lot of fun having you in here for the Oakland County Hour. We should do this again sometime.
I'm in. I'd love to do it. It's been great, and watching you do this, oh my goodness, 5 days a week. I applaud. You're doing a great job, Tyler.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff. You can learn more information about Jeff's show in town over on the Media Network of Waterford, or about everything that they do over at the Media Network by visiting their website, medianetworkofwaterford.org, or going to our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where we have links to every single one of our partnering television, radio, and other media outlets, including your radio homes for the show, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. We'll return after this quick break with the Michigan MegaCast.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
We as Michiganders feel connected to this resource in a way that I think is really powerful.
Conservation starts with a caring, committed community.
For me, it's peaceful to have a relationship with the river.
Every single one of us has a role to make sure that those waterways stay safe and healthy, being careful about what goes down the storm drain.
Just even eliminating some of your single-use plastic makes a difference.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
The leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Joining us now on the Michigan Megacast is Jamie Wolf, the Vice President and Treasurer, as well as the co-founder of NBS Animal Rescue, a Share Detroit-supported charity and nonprofit. Thank you for being with us today, Jamie.
Thank you so much for having me today, Tyler. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you with us. First off, tell us about NBS. How did the organization begin, and what services do you provide as an animal rescue and shelter?
Yeah, so we started in 2011. I met Rebecca Akins and Aaron Fortin when we were all volunteering with another animal rescue organization in the area. And we became very good friends. We were very like-minded and decided that we wanted to start our own animal rescue organization back then. So we officially opened up our doors in October 2011. We were truly a grassroots organization. We started with an absolute shoestring of a budget. I think we each brought $300 to the table to start the rescue and build a website. And we started building relationships and connections with different area shelters. And obviously we already knew a lot of different people in the rescue world to begin with. And we started rescuing dogs. We took our passions and turned them into NBS Animal Rescue.
And so your primary goal, or among your primary goals, are to rescue and rehabilitate animals that you will find that are homeless, that are in need, and then educating the community on that process and the need for adopting pets that are going to be in need of homes. So let's start with the finding of the homeless animals and the immediate treatment. How often does a rescue like yours find these animals, find these homeless animals, and then what often is the condition that you're finding these homeless animals in and then needing to care for them?
Those are really good questions. So we work primarily, and every single rescue is a little bit different here in the state of Michigan, but we operate primarily right in the Metro Detroit area. So we stick to the Tri-County area. We work with a number of different shelters, the Macomb County Shelter. We work with Oakland County. We work with Detroit Animal Control. And we are generally pulling animals out of shelters. Because our rescue specifically, we focus on small breed dogs. So obviously a young small breed puppy that doesn't have any medical issues is very easy for a shelter to adopt out. The animals that we get called in on are generally the older animals, the seniors, or the ones that have a serious medical issue. And so we take in a lot of high medical cases, dogs that maybe need some kind of extraneous surgery. Sometimes it's a severe dental. Sometimes it's a luxating patella, which is where the kneecaps pop out of place and it needs to be surgically corrected. Sometimes it's eye removals because a lot of small breed dogs can battle eye issues. And so the dogs that we take in generally have high medical needs to begin with. And that's our baseline of where we start with each one of our animals, is generally getting that baseline done of their medical needs being taken care of first and foremost.
So between the shelters and animal rescue such as yours, in the Tri-County area here in Metro Detroit that you mentioned you serve, what typically is the way that these homeless animals are encountered? Are they often stray animals that are injured, or are they more so animals that are unfortunately for one reason or another abandoned by their homes?
Yeah, so we see a litany, basically all of the above. When we're dealing with the shelters obviously are taking in animals. Sometimes they have animal control officers that are working on the streets, picking up stray animals. They are obviously, first and foremost, trying to find their home. But if no owner comes forward looking for their animal, then the shelter will begin searching for a rescue for that animal. Sometimes it is people find themselves in unfortunate situations, life changes, and they have to surrender their dog. And so they may surrender the dog directly to the shelter. Sometimes we have owners actually reach out directly to us as well as a rescue because they know that we are serve small breed dogs specifically, and so they'll reach out to us directly. And sometimes it can be a veterinary hospital. We have random cases where a veterinary hospital, some family can't maybe take care of a dog any longer, and the veterinary hospital is helping to facilitate finding the animal a new home, and so they'll reach out to us. So there's a number of different ways that animals end up homeless, and we work to change that, and we work to fix that for them.
We're joined by Jamie Wolf, the Vice President, Treasurer, and co-founder of NBS Animal Rescue, joining us on the MegaCast. More information about the rescue on sharedetroit.org by going to their Find a Nonprofit link and searching NBS Animal Rescue, or by visiting their website directly at nbsar.org. That is nbsar.org. And so, Jamie, how has the pandemic impacted the way that your animal rescue operates, and then the needs of your animal rescue out in the community?
Yeah, so the pandemic definitely had a very big effect on us as well. One of the things that we do with all of our adoptions is we do what's called a home visit. And the purpose for us in doing the home visit is when a family is approved to adopt a dog, we take the dog to the home. If there's other animals in the home, we help facilitate the introduction to the new dog. We talk about the animal, and we just spend time with the family really educating them about this particular animal because every single animal has its own needs. During the pandemic, we actually stopped doing as long of home visits, and we actually started using technology like Zoom to do the introductory meeting, to have that with our new adopters and make sure that they're still getting the level of education that our previous adopters were on their particular adoptive animal. We also were impacted because veterinary costs increase, as many costs have over the past year and a half. Some veterinary hospitals have had to eliminate or reduce rescue discounts that they often have been able to give in the past. And we saw a lot more lead times with being able to get certain procedures done, which unfortunately caused us to have to delay adoptions until some of these basic things were taken care of for the dogs. So it definitely has impacted us, and we have worked our way through it, one step at a time.
Yeah, circumstances change, and the impact of those circumstances changes the paradigm for any organization, for any nonprofit, for any charity, and certainly for animal rescues, considering all the things that have gone on during the pandemic and the early rush to adopt animals, and unfortunately by the middle of the pandemic or just in the past several months, a little bit of that rush to then bring animals back or abandon animals has also played a factor. And when those circumstances change, the needs of these organizations change with those circumstances too. So at this time, Jamie, what are some of the greatest needs of your organization that the community may be able to help with?
Yeah, so I mean, our biggest needs have actually stayed relatively consistent. Foster homes. Foster homes are the lifeline to a rescue such as ours. We do not have a shelter, for example. Right. We are what's called 100% foster home based. We don't have animals in a centralized location. Each one of our animals actually goes into an individual foster home so that they can recover, be assessed individually. And so our foster homes are the absolute lifeline to our rescue. So having dedicated foster homes who are willing to take care of these animals are key to our existence and survival. So that would be always our number one need, are the dedicated foster homes. And our group of foster homes at NBS, I mean, we're a little family in and of ourselves, and we absolutely love our fosters and do everything that we can to support and take care of each one of our foster homes. And then obviously donations. We are not state or federally funded in any way, shape, or form. All of our donations come from our dedicated volunteers, adopters, supporters, and so those are going to be our two biggest needs.
More information on their website, nbsar.org. That is nbsar.org. They are also one of 277 charities and nonprofits supported by Share Detroit. More information about all 277 of those organizations, including NBS Animal Rescue, at sharedetroit.org. We're joined by Jamie Wolf, the Vice President, Treasurer, and Co-founder of NBS Animal Rescue, with us on the MegaCast. And so you mentioned fostering a critical role of what your animal rescue is able to provide to our community. If someone is interested, or a family is interested in fostering some of these dogs and these puppies that are coming in to NBS, what goes into the process of them becoming a foster, and then what is that obligation then from there forward once they do become a foster home for these animals?
Yeah, so anybody interested in fostering can go to our website, and our website actually has an entire section dedicated to fostering, along with the foster home application. A foster home goes through the same exact application process that one of our adopters do, because our goal is obviously to make sure that these animals are getting into good, safe places. And fostering is exceptionally rewarding. It can be very difficult, obviously, saying goodbye and letting go of your first or second foster, but it gets easier with time when you're able to see a dog transform literally in your home and then be adopted out to a new family. Many of our adoptive families send pictures and updates consistently, which is really great for a foster home. The commitment really comes down to love and time. NBS strives to take all of the difficult legwork out of, having to gain supplies or having to pay for any kind of vet appointments. NBS handles all that. We have in Sterling Heights, one of our co-founders, Aaron Fortin, has a business himself, and he has a warehouse that has a ton of supplies. And so we will supply a foster home with any physical thing that they would possibly need. We coordinate all of the veterinary care. We can even help facilitate getting an animal to and from vet appointments. We have a foster and volunteer page where if you're going on vacation, another foster or volunteer can take your dog in for a week or two. So our goal is to take care of literally everything that somebody would need to take care of a dog, and allow the foster to just love, respect, and get to know this animal, so that we can find that animal the best possible home.
Jamie, thank you very much for joining us. Before we let you go, anything else that we should know at this time about NBS Animal Rescue?
No, I just wanted to take the time to thank you. Also thank Share Detroit for allowing us on. We're a grassroots organization. We work off of a shoestring budget that has no kind of marketing dollars. So allowing us to be a part of a broadcast like this is very important to get the word out about who we are and what we do. So thank you very much to both you and Share Detroit.
Appreciate it. Again, you can learn more information about NBS Animal Rescue in a couple of places. ShareDetroit.org by looking them up in their search charities and nonprofits section, or by going directly to their website at nbsar.org.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking
longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
We're in the middle of winter. It's cold outside. There's not much to do. So where do you go? You go to the movies, and especially when we're in the thick of award season now, you're going to want to be seeing some of those movies that are going to be bringing home the hardware very soon. The best person to talk about that, to make sure you see the good ones and leave the rest to everybody else, is Nate Adams from theonlycritic.com. You've also read his reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. He's with us once again on the MegaCast. Nate, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Tyler, and a happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm so glad that they spread that around today. So yes, thank you. One of many surprises so far as I walk into the studio today and further realize I'm old. Let's begin with the movies. The Oscars are coming up, and we have Academy Award nominations that recently came out last week, and a lot of new faces across the board in the nominations this year, but a lot of familiar faces as well. A record nomination for Denzel Washington, as he once again is nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role. We also see some other stars that are commonly up there, like Jessica Chastain, nominated again, and some surprises even that have been in the folklore of the movie industry of the last 10 years or so, but haven't quite got that recognition yet. People like Kristen Stewart, who's nominated for Best Actress in a Leading Role. So let's start with just the movies in general. In terms of those movies that we're going to be seeing nominated in a lot of these categories that we've seen nominated and may win multiple Oscars, what are among those that you think people should be seeing?
Well, it's a very eclectic lineup this year because the Academy Awards, last year with the pandemic, the lineup was kind of slim in that there wasn't, a big populist film. Nomadland won last year, which was a very little seen film. I mean, probably most people saw it at home where it was streaming on Hulu. This year it's an improvement, but at least there's you have a Dune, right? Dune's nominated for 10 Oscars, which is the only film, by the way, out of the 10 nominees, because this year the Academy said they're going to stick to a straight 10 from here on out. So hoping that a big budget blockbuster film might be able to break in. And this year that happened to be Dune, which had been long favored to get a ton of nominations. Some people had predicted maybe Spider-Man No Way Home, which is currently the highest grossing film of the last 10 years or so, one of them, was going to break into the field, and it didn't. But the Oscars are also trying to combat that this year. The Academy had just an initiative now they're going to have on Twitter where folks can go online, they can use a hashtag, and up to 20 times a day they can vote for their favorite film, and then on the telecast they're going to reveal that pick. So I guess that's where Spider-Man could get in. As far as what to see, a lot of these films, just like last year, are going to be available on streaming, so a lot of folks are going to be able to see it. The Japan International Film Entry, Drive My Car, made it into the Best Picture field, which is also riding on the coattails of Parasite a few years ago, so that's really nice to see. Folks will be able to stream that on HBO Max starting in March. Nightmare Alley, nominated for Best Picture, directed by Guillermo del Toro, is already on Hulu. Coda, which was my #1 film of 2021, a great film, which CODA stands for Child of Deaf Adults, is on Apple TV Plus, which is their first nomination and Best Picture. But a lot of people are talking about The Power of the Dog, Jane Campion's adaptation of the Thomas Savage novel. It's got the most noms, 12 nominations. It's streaming on Netflix, and this might be the first year. Every year, a streamer always gets close to taking that top prize, but every year preceding this one has always gone to a major studio that released films theatrically. This is Netflix's best chance at finally, after I don't know how many nominations, they might be able to crack the Best Picture field.
We're joined by Nate Adams from theonlycritic.com. He's a film critic. You can also read his reviews on Rotten Tomatoes as well. And so you mentioned Netflix kind of breaking that mold, and maybe this year is the year that they finally get through after they've been nominated for some of their some of their pictures in the past, but have not won the physical award.
They've come so close.
Right,
they've always come so close.
Right, and
Yeah.
so you're saying that this may be that year where they pull through. You also mentioned Spider-Man: No Way Home as one of the top-grossing films of 2021. It was highly acclaimed by those that are superhero movie aficionados and those that are just casuals going to see the movie because it was a big hit. Do you see as these superhero movies, especially these franchises and these cinematic universes that are becoming more common, as these films become more popular and become more mass appeal, do you see any of those in the future, especially with the quality we had in Spider-Man: No Way Home and in other films recently, that some of these may actually break through and be considered for some of these top prizes?
Yeah, it's definitely not impossible because we saw Black Panther break into the field in 2019, was nominated for Best Picture, which was a groundbreaking landmark achievement at the time. And I don't think that that could definitely happen again. The reason why the Academy expanded the category to 10, because before it was 5 to 10, and now it's guaranteed 10 every year for the hope that something like a populist film like Spider-Man could break in. You remember in 1998, everybody was tuning in to see if Titanic was going to win Best Picture because Titanic was a huge film. And the whole reason, Tyler, that the Academy expanded the field was because, I don't know if you remember, but it was a huge controversy that The Dark Knight didn't get a Best Picture nomination the year it was released, because obviously in this day and age, like, Dark Knight is heavily regarded now years later as one of the best, not only one of the best films of all time, but the best superhero film of all time. It is for me. And to see that a movie like that, and the scale and the way it was made and the artistry and the mastery behind the scenes, that it didn't get a Best Picture nomination was baffling. So the Academy noticed that, and that's why they expanded the field. So do I think that in the future more could break through the mold? Absolutely. It just is a matter of, what's the right film buzzing and popping at the right time. There is a Black Panther sequel that's coming out soon. Is that going to change the narrative? I really thought Spider-Man: No Way Home might have had a shot, but this year was kind of jam-packed. And Dune did make $100 million plus. Probably would have made more had it not been released via HBO Max and theaters at the same time. And there's a sequel on the way. So, there is a populist film in the mix, but as far as like a big, mass, wide 4-quadrant film, that is missing from this lineup. But the lineup is very eclectic. You got Licorice Pizza. We talked about Don't Look Up. I would argue that Don't Look Up is as huge a hit as any of these films, even though it didn't release. Most people saw it at streaming on Netflix. I heard more people talk about Don't Look Up over the Christmas holiday than I heard about any film this year, because of the topics and the conversation and the debate about what the film means, and people are still talking about it coming up and chatting weeks later because of the buzz. So I know Power of the Dog is the favorite, but don't be surprised if Don't Look Up kind of somehow sneaks in there and wins, which would actually cause complete chaos, because I don't know if you've seen the reviews. The reviews are very, very mixed. It's one of the lowest rated Best Picture nominees of all time. I was a big fan of it. I was on the side of I loved it, and a lot of people that I talked to seem to enjoy it too. So Best Picture is really supposed to represent, they say it's like a moment in time, right? It's representative of that year. And so, Don't Look Up, with its message of climate change and, maybe pandemic and politics, is it the most timely? Maybe. But, there's an argument for every movie. I'm sure that could be good. Belfast, Kenneth Branagh's, black and white story about his childhood, long rumored to be the favorite. But then I don't know, fun fact to the day, the Best Editing Oscar, most people don't know this, is a huge bellwether and precursor to the Best Picture nominee. Only 10 films in the history of the Academy Awards has won Best Picture without an editing nomination, and Belfast missed that nomination. So that kind of puts Power of the Dog back at the top. Fun fact of the day. I'm kind of, if people need their facts, right?
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing to consider too, because these are ultimately, as much as we see the mass appeal of the movie industry, and we kind of see these as, okay, this is the awards for the best of the best in all these different categories. If you think about it, ultimately what it comes down to, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is tasked with deciding on which are the best from a filmmaking standard in each of these categories, and editing is a huge part, arguably one of the more critical parts of what makes a film great.
And people talk about, well, the Oscars, are they relevant anymore? Because, to me, some of my favorite movies didn't get nominated. None of them. Like The Green Knight was a great film, got 0 nominations. So, if you like what you like, don't use the Academy Awards as like this, end all be all that, it has to be the best in film. But I will say that it is still important, and it is still vital. And it's really the only thing that we have, in the sense that half the people would not have seen Parasite, a Korean language film, had it not been nominated for Best Picture. Nobody's would have seen Drive My Car had they not nominated. Like, nobody would have checked out Power of the Dog, even though they might not like these movies, or they might not, they might think they're slow or boring or whatever. The fact that they're even checking them out is only because they're getting this type of buzz with nominations. So I do think that is important, in that it does introduce people to a new form of cinema that they might not have otherwise seen. It's like my parents might not have seen some of these movies had they not gotten the buzz of the Oscars. So they are important in that aspect, but also, you can still like what you like, even if they're not nominated for awards. It doesn't have to mean it's the end of the world.
You can read Nate's film critiques at theonlycritic.com. We're joined by Nate Adams, of course, from theonlycritic.com. You can also find his reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. And so it brings up another interesting point. We go back to the competition that's there in the movie industry right now, the expanded competition with streaming being a critical output for a lot of these movies during the pandemic, and it's kind of changed the paradigm for what's going to happen after the pandemic. From a studio's perspective, studios that have been more so focused on those theatrical releases and are looking to go back to a similar format that we had pre-pandemic, what adjustments are they going to need to be making going forward to continue to be competitive with these streaming services that are becoming more popular, that are growing that mass appeal, and that are providing the greater exposure to some of these movies because of their easy access at home?
So I think the number one thing that they're going to have to do is adapt. We saw this Moonfall opened a couple weeks ago, and it cost like a colossal amount of money. It cost about like $160 million to make, and then it tanked at the box office. I think studios are going to have to learn on the balance sheet that movies don't necessarily have to cost an arm and a leg in order to be theatrically, viable. Jackass Forever was a film that cost, I think, $20 million to make, and it's already in the red. Scream came out in early January, was made for $20 million, and it's made $80 million. It's like, I think they need to economize their budgets a little bit if they're going to try and go the theatrical model, unless it's these big budget superhero films. You can still make a small budget, drama or a horror film. Horrors are the most profitable film in the business. $5, $10, $15 million. I think what needs to happen is we don't need to spend $60, $70, $80 million like they just did on this Death in the Nile remake that came out over the past weekend. So that's going to be a key component as far as what films are going to be making it into the theatrical only landscape. And it's going to take like a Bridesmaid or a My Best Friend's Wedding, that type of romantic comedy to kind of rejuvenate that genre. And I don't know when that's going to come, because all those films are being relegated to streaming. But I think if the studios can figure out a way to, get the budgets down and try and, work in the mold, that might work. I watched a film called I Want You Back. It came out on Amazon Prime over the weekend. One of the best romantic comedies I've seen of the last 3 or 4 years, okay? And that premiered on streaming. I was thinking to myself as I was watching it, there was a time when this movie would have probably legged it out to $100 million at the box office on good word of mouth because it's so good. And now I'm watching it at home with my significant other on the couch, not sharing in that communal experience. So it just becomes a term of, what's going to make the most sense. And right now it's superhero films and big budget films and maybe kids films. Sing 2 made $130 plus million, which is the best showing for a kids film. So, you got the Batman coming up in a few weeks. That's probably going to be there, but it's going to be tough to see what mid-sized film that's not a horror film, that's not based on an existing property, that's not a superhero film, that is going to break through. The highest grossing adult drama, pure adult drama from the last year since the pandemic began was House of Gucci, which made $50 million. And I would argue that was because it had the strength of Lady Gaga, which she was notably snubbed for Best Actress this year at the Oscars, much to the ear of her online Twitter fan base.
We're joined by Nate Adams from theonlycritic.com, joining us on the MAGAcast, talking all things Academy Awards. And so we have a couple more minutes with you, Nate. Let's go rapid fire down the line with some of these key categories and get your predictions. Best Actress in a Leading Role, we have, of course, Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman, The Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz in Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman, Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart in Spencer. Who do you see in Best Actress?
So the odds have the favor of Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos. But I will say another statistic here is that this is also going to be hard to predict. Best Actress is the one category that is completely up for grabs because no actress has a film that crosses over with Best Picture. So usually there's like a favorite where you can like link the two. It's like, oh, well, they like that movie more. But Kristen Stewart also missed the SAG nominations, which No actress in the history of the Academy Awards who did not get a SAG nomination went on to win Best Actress. Can Kristen Stewart, who has a lot of love for Spencer, break that for the first time and make history? Maybe. Right now I'm going with Kidman, but do not be surprised if Stewart sneaks up in there and gets the gold.
Best actor in a leading role, also one that people are going to be looking out for. What are your predictions there?
This is also a coin flip. It's going to be either Benedict Cumberbatch, who's got a lot of love for The Power of the Dog, or Will Smith for King Richard. I have the edge slightly for Will Smith because, it's kind of his due. It's his second Oscar nomination. Every actor in this category has been nominated before, by the way. So someone's going to get either their second or their first win. So I'm giving the edge to Will Smith, but it's close too.
All right, maybe I should finish this off by asking you who's going to win Best Editing, and that will take care of 2 categories. But I'll finish with Best Picture. What's your prediction?
I think it's going to be Power of the Dog, and then Jane Campion's going to ride that Best Director win, which would be history because it'd be the first time in Oscar history back-to-back directors were won by females, which would be great to see.
Nate, anything else to be looking out for in the movie industry coming forward for us?
The summer movie season's coming soon. Like I said, Batman's on the rise. We got some Marvel TV shows, Top Gun Maverick, Doctor Strange, the next Jurassic Park film. So movies are bouncing back, and it's going to be an exciting time for theatrical to watch that and see. And then also streaming. There's a lot of stuff coming at home that everybody should be getting. Netflix has a robust lineup of films coming. That's going to be, you're going to have options every which way. So it's a good time to be a content consumer.
Yeah. Nate, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Tyler, and I hope you have a great birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council,
we work together to protect water resources for everyone.
Most of the pollution entering our rivers is carried by rainwater that runs off roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
A rain garden helps catch stormwater runoff.
Rain gardens and their plants help dirty runoff soak into the ground.
You can do your part to help keep our water clean.
Learn about rain gardens and native plants.
So consider a rain garden in your home landscaping.
Catch the runoff with a rain garden.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here
for you.
Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation.
Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime-victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. You can learn more about everywhere we're broadcasting live and live to tape every day from 10 a.m. until 12 noon by visiting our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also find more information about all of our partnering television, radio, and web outlets that join us each and every day and find all the shows on demand. Joining us now is the Executive Director and the CEO of Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit. Laura Varon Brown is with us on the Megacast. Laura, thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So, Gilda's Club, of course, was created in the memory of Gilda Radner, who of course is known from her time with Saturday Night Live and as a comedian as well. Can you tell us about the organization, its mission, and some of the ways it helps people all across the U.S. and the world, but also right here in Metro Detroit?
Well, Gilda's Club is here to support families facing cancer. Our mission is to provide the tools for empowerment and to make sure you're making the right decisions and to make sure that your family is healthy. A healthy family makes healthy outcomes. So men, women, and children, we have free services, more than 140 different programs of support, education, and wellness options. We've been here for over 25 years, and we just, certainly there's been lessons the last 2 years of the need and the isolation of families facing cancer. Always have felt isolated. Of course, the last couple of years, even more isolation. But the programming, it really just strengthens families and helps them get the resources that they need on a, pretty complex path. And we try to make the access to it pretty simple. And all our services being free makes it really, really nice for the families to get what they need.
And give us a little bit of insight into its local history here in Metro Detroit. There were originally 8 founders of Gilda's Club here in Metro Detroit. Can you tell us a little bit about those 8 individuals?
Yep, absolutely. In I think it was about 1993, we had 8 women who knew each other in one circle or another, but they were all facing cancer, whether themselves or someone in their family was diagnosed. And they just recognized that there was just such a lack of resources, non-medical, to understand the mental anguish of going through the disease and the complexity of making decisions. They read in the newspaper about an effort in New York that was going on in the memory of Gilda Radner, who, when Gilda was going through cancer, she said, you know, everyone needs a place. They were kind of afraid to give her too much information about her diagnosis, which was ovarian cancer. So she snuck away to a little yellow house with a young therapist who was helping women navigate the medical community and helping them navigate their disease. And when she went in remission, she said, everyone needs a place to understand this disease. So her cancer came back, and it came back really strong. And after she passed away, her friends in New York said, how can we honor Gilda? And they kept going back to her phrase, everyone needs a place. And so that started Gilda's Club in New York. And when the 8 women here saw that, they thought, boy, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. They visited New York, found out about Gilda's Club there and what the effort was. It hadn't even opened yet. And so we were second or third to open here in Metro Detroit. And Gilda, being from Metro Detroit, it is such a purposeful kind of memory and legacy for Gilda.
We're joined by Laura Varon Brown, the Executive Director and the CEO of Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit, joining us on the MegaCast. And so there are a number of different programs that your organization provides to those in the community that may be facing cancer, both adults and children. Can you tell us about some of those programs and the ways that people that may be battling cancer are able to engage in them?
I'll give you 2 good examples. One, we have a group called Living with Cancer. We have a lot of cancer-specific groups as well, but our Living with Cancer are for people who are currently diagnosed, currently in treatment within 2 years. And it's in this group facilitated by a licensed counselor. All our counselors are master's level. And they're able to navigate, hear the experiences of what their peers are going through. And no one understands that more than someone who's in the room that says, you know, I had my chemo yesterday, here's what I experienced. Or here's our ways to kind of guard against the side effects. Another example of a good group is a caregiver group. When you're caring for someone in your home, whether it's a child, a parent, or a spouse, or even a friend, it's very, very trying environment to know when to push, when not to push, and how to navigate that. So our caregiver group is very, very powerful for people who are trying to support someone with cancer. And then, of course, you know, when the worst happens, we have bereavement groups, and those, of course, are very healing and very important in our space.
We're joined by Laura Varon Brown, the CEO and the Executive Director of Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit, joining us on the MegaCast. The organization also holds a number of different events throughout the year, daily events in some cases and other special events as well. Can you tell us about some of those daily events or regular events that will be happening week to week that people can also engage with?
You know, we have lectures that are open to the public, and those we have our calendar, gildasclubdetroit.org. There's a calendar that goes through all of our offerings. So those are kind of the social events that we have for our membership and for families facing cancer, or those who want to just know a little bit more, whether it's a lecture on a certain cancer, whether it's healthy lifestyle, healthy eating. But then, of course, we have our fundraising events. We have 3 signature events each year. One are coming up is Gilda's Big Night Out, which is our signature fundraiser, and that is April 28th. And that's really a wonderful, empowering night that helps to fund our programming all year.
We're joined by Laura Varon Brown, the Executive Director of Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit, a Share Detroit-supported charity and nonprofit, one of 278 charities and nonprofits in metropolitan Detroit supported by the organization. More information in a couple of places. ShareDetroit.org. You click on their Find Nonprofits page right there on their homepage, and you can search Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit, or go to gildasclubdetroit.org. That is gildasclubdetroit.org. And so, Laura, I understand there are multiple locations throughout the local area for Gilda's Club. So if people are on one side of town versus the other, they're going to be in one area one day and another the other. They can participate in some of these programs and get some of the guidance from the club. Where are your locations?
We have 3 locations. Royal Oak is our headquarters. And then we have the Lake House the Gilda's Club Lake House, which is in St. Clair Shores, a nice east side location. And then we recently opened in the Durfee Innovation Society in Detroit, which had, the world's worst timing. We opened our doors there. So proud of that nonprofit hub. We opened our doors on March 12th, 2020. So 2 days later, we closed those doors, but we now have a fourth location, which is our virtual location. And the one thing that we learned, we've done a few things, Facebook Live, some lectures, but the hybrid and virtual option for us is going nowhere. Even in a perfect environment, we have learned that our members who don't feel well, have transportation issues, have childcare issues, that having a virtual component to our program is really, really important now. And we've invested in some really wonderful technology to be able to do that. So the fourth location right now, of course, is our most robust access point.
Laura, there are so many different needs that a person with one form of cancer versus another may need. There's so many that are similar as well. But battling cancer during the pandemic kind of threw a curveball into all of that, as it did with anybody battling any sort of medical condition or other crisis in their life. How did those needs for those battling cancer change over the course of the pandemic? And then how did Gilda's Club, particularly here in Metro Detroit, adjust itself to be able to meet those needs?
We overnight put all our programming online and access, and that was before the investment in technology. But what we learned right away was our members, whether you had a child in the household who had cancer, anyone who was compromised, and certainly compromised with cancer, because even once the vaccine came, they do not hold the antibodies like the rest of us do. We immediately, within 24 hours, were partnering and delivering meals and delivering supplies and trying to help as best we could to have it not be so isolated. But it was an incredibly isolating environment.
So there are ways that people can become members of Gilda's Club. Can you talk about membership and what sort of benefits come from membership versus sort of being on the outside looking in, seeing these programs and maybe wanting to engage?
Years ago, Gilda said that cancer gave her a membership to an elite club that no one wanted to belong to. So that's where we got our members. We don't want to refer to people as patients, because not everyone is a patient who comes either. But we've kind of taken the clinical aspect, and then we partner. We are a wonderful component to the more clinical aspect. But it's simple. People, you go to our website, new member, and we ask a few questions. There is no insurance that's involved in that, no payment, nothing. And then from there, we have a licensed counselor who will walk each family through which part of our program might be best for them, whether it's just an educational component. We have healthy lifestyle. We have yoga every day. So we kind of really go through and assess where they need. If they have children, we have amazing children and teen offerings to help teens see that they're not alone, or children see that they're not alone and that they're not terribly different when your family is kind of toppled upside down pretty urgently. So we just love when new members come on, and you kind of see their heads down, and then you can see that confidence that is raised when they realize the tools that are available to them and how easy it is to get them.
We're joined by Laura Varon Brown, the Executive Director and CEO of Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit. You can learn more information by visiting their website, gildasclubdetroit.org, including signing up for their free membership. Free services with their membership include support groups, bereavement services, healthy lifestyle workshops, including yoga, arts, music therapy, social opportunities, educational lectures, nutritional guidance, and more. Again, Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit's website, gildasclubdetroit.org. And of course, every nonprofit organization has a variety of different needs. At this time, what are some of the greatest needs of your organization so that Gilda's Club here in Metro Detroit in Michigan can continue to support those that may be battling cancer? Laura, are you able to hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Can't see me. Okay, but you can now hear me. All right. Well, I'll repeat the question. We may have had just a little technical glitch there. Nonprofit organizations all across the board, they have a variety of different needs at different times. At this moment in time, what are the best ways that people in our local area and our community here in Michigan can support Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit?
The biggest need is that if you have someone in your circle who's facing cancer, pass along our free services. Our biggest goal is just to serve as many people as we possibly can. Of course, we have financial needs too. The pandemic was very rough on a number of nonprofits, so get involved with whether it's a fundraiser at work or a can drive or one of our fundraising events is really, really important. We have volunteers who help us with our beautiful grounds at each location, and also with events that we have, just as simple as coming in and making sure people are comfortable when they're within our clubhouse. Our volunteer coordinator can talk through volunteer. A lot of groups come. It's a wonderful time for groups to come and have kind of where employees get together and they do something very purposeful in our garden. There are lots of ways like that, but the main is just if you have someone who is facing cancer, please just direct them to us so we can get them the help that they deserve.
Laura, is there anything else about Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit that we haven't discussed today that you'd like our audience to know?
Just know that when you're somewhere in a store or you're out in public and you look to your left or your right, there could be someone who has cancer in their household. And it's just, really important to support them, especially these past couple years where many of us now are enjoying more of a sense of community that we haven't had. It's still very, very fearful for a lot of people who are immunocompromised. And I think supporting them right now is really an important thing because their world is not normal anyway, but it is so atypical right now with the COVID environment and being worried about being out in public. So just support those who are compromised as best you can and understand that the world is still very different for them.
Laura, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Again, you can learn more information about Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit by visiting their website, gildasclubdetroit.org. That is gildasclubdetroit.org. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Michigan Megacast. I want to thank everybody that did join us on today's edition of the entire show in the Oakland County Hour. Byron Turnquist, the Fire Marshal for West Bloomfield Township, Keiko Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake, as well as Ronnie Dahl from the CrimeCasters Network podcast. More information on CrimeCastersNetwork.com. From that, our guests in the Michigan Hour as well, Jamie Wolf from NBS Animal Rescue, Nate Adams, film critic at theonlycritic.com and on Rotten Tomatoes, and of course, Laura Varon Brown, the executive director and CEO of Gilda's Club of Metro Detroit. You can find all of our interviews and each full episode of the Megacast, including today's special episode with Jeff Decker in the first hour from the Media Network of Waterford, and of course today's Michigan Megacast on demand on our website later on this afternoon, civiccentertv.com/megacast, or just go to civiccentertv.com and click on our Megacast link. There you'll also find links to every single one of our partnering television, radio, and web outlets that join us every day, so you can enjoy their programming as well on demand on your own time when we're not broadcasting here, live 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday. More information on COVID-19 as well as our top stories making headlines every day in Oakland County and across the state of Michigan on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Big thank you to our crew as well as always, Calvin Brown, our technical director here in our studio with me every day from 10 to noon, pulling a little bit of double duty today with a couple of people in here during the Michigan hour of the show. Jared Clark, the Zoom producer over at the offices of My Michigan TV. Larry Nyland, the king of television, our producer, getting everybody ready for our show, helping us get ready to have these conversations with all of these very interesting guests. And of course, Maddie Mustian out at Master Control, helping us both on and off the air each and every day. On My Michigan TV, there's a lot of more original programming coming up in the next couple of hours. Steve Leto Live is coming up next, followed by Larry and Maddie Live on My Michigan TV on mymytv.com. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.